Welcome to the Wealthy Retailer Podcast. My name is Dan Holman, and my guest today is Janel Dickin with Hye Fashion and Authentic Consulting Group.
That's right.
Let's start with Hye Fashion. Let's actually start with Janel. Tell me about your journey. How did you end up in retail? Because you weren't really a retailer. That's not what you're educated for.
It's a very conventional and normal path I've taken down. Firstly, thank you so much for having me. This is great. This is fun. So my formal education is I have a master's degree in molecular genetics, and now I own a clothing store. So, there are some pieces that, between those two to fill in, certainly. But yeah, I used to work in Saskatchewan. I worked for the federal government, for Agriculture Canada. Obviously, a very direct translation into retail. But yeah, I worked for Agriculture Canada, and it was an incredible opportunity, amazing job, but it was not for me. And I'm 6 feet tall. You can't tell this in a podcast, guys, but I'm 6 feet tall, and so I've always struggled with finding clothing that fit me.
Right.
And it's the combination of working at a job that wasn't quite right for me, and I was missing something. There was more of a passion, right? And so I have a passion for helping people and helping people to feel good. What else is better? You know? And no matter how you're doing it. And so for me, that's what was lacking in my career in research. And so I worked for about a year and a half on the business plan for Hye Fashion before I opened the store. Hye Fashion is a store that, we offer style that fits every height.
So it's not just for high women.
No.
Tall women. High women. I mean, high women are welcome to shop there now.
We don't
in Canada, it's okay to be high.
We don't discriminate.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so it's not just for tall women.
No, it's not.
Fashion for every height.
It's
but
true,
really, you started out with this.
Yeah.
This needs to be my niche. I'm going to solve one of my own problems and try to solve that problem for other women.
Completely selfish.
Good for you.
Totally selfish.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
And it's different, right? That's the thing, is there were competitors out there.
I love that you say there were competitors.
Yeah, we can touch on that later.
Yeah, sure.
There were other brick and mortar competitors out there, but at the time when I opened in 2010, things have changed a lot since then, and I was finding that what was offered at those competitors, although it was amazing that there was something, it still wasn't enough. Some tall women really want to be fashion forward, regardless of your height.
Right.
Right. That's not too much to ask.
Right.
So,
I agree.
Yeah.
And so where do you find brands today that satisfy both of those things, that are super fashion forward, or that allow me to look and feel my best, but also cover my ankles?
Man, that is great question. Really good question.
And if I had the answer, we could change trajectory.
Totally. No, you know what? I over the years, I've developed some incredible partnerships with some of our brands, and we started small and have grown. And because of that, it's given us the opportunity to partner with them and do a lot of custom manufacturing with those brands. So that's one place where we get a lot of sort of the more basics and more standard styles that, jeans, for example, that everybody needs. And then there's a variety of brands from Scandinavian countries. People tend to be more similarly built to myself there and to my tall customer. And so a lot of those brands, they naturally are designed with extra length and they fit a little bit better. And then we work wherever we can. I really love partnering with Canadian suppliers. Selfishly, if I'm out of jeans on a Wednesday, I can have them in my store by Friday. So that's nice.
That's helpful.
That is helpful. But the other thing is I find that Canadian manufacturers, the fits definitely work better for my customer, generally speaking. They're built on a more realistic block for who my customer is. But also, the quality is second to none.
Okay.
I love working with Canadian manufacturers. So yeah, really all over the world. All over.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. And so how do you start to curate these vendors and these partners? Where do you go and find them? Where do you see them?
Wow, that's a really great question. I do a lot of working at trade shows is one of the things that I do. And I can't limit myself to trade shows just here. Sure. Right? I need to expand beyond that because the brands that I need are so obscure that I really, they're not available and not known in North America. So I do a lot of research into, honestly, European blogs and, different, not so much retailers there, but different like Facebook groups for tall women and...
Is there such a thing?
There's quite a few of
Quite
them.
a few things.
Yeah, there are. They don't have a huge amount of followers or members, but yeah, there are quite a few different members internationally. Or
No kidding.
Different, different Facebook groups for tall women, because we have such a unique set of problems that no one
Right, that
understands
no other people, right.
unless you are a tall woman.
Right.
Like specialty stores, I get it. You know, plus size, petite, that kind of thing.
But plus size is very different than tall.
Very different. Now, they have their own unique set of challenges as well. Same with petites. Oh my goodness, I'm not in any way, in any way saying anything negative about them. But as tall women, it's such a unique set of challenges. Like, for example, I was at Magic Marketplace. This is years ago, Dan. And I was on the hunt for, another vendor for denim.
Right.
So our inseam, the shortest inseam that we carry is 35 inches. Typically, a lady's inseam for pants would be 30 to 32 inches.
Right.
So we're talking a whole lot of extra length.
Yeah.
So I walked, you've been to Magic.
Yes, I've been to Magic a few times.
How big would you say that the trade show floor for women's is?
Well, at the Las Vegas Convention Center, I think it's almost 1 million square feet.
No, that in itself. I read a fun fact, Dan. I read about the Las Vegas Convention Center, 3.2 million square feet.
Yeah.
And that place is full.
And they're adding another million or 1.5 million square feet. But I think Women's Wear Daily is about 1 million square feet on the floor.
I'm sure it is. Yeah. And then at that time, you had everything that was happening at Mandalay Bay as well.
Of course.
And that convention center is equal size.
Right.
So I walked in every one of the women's halls. I walked up and down every single row and then across. And I stopped at every booth where I saw a pair of pants. I said, hi, at the beginning, of course, of the day, hi, how are you? Oh, great to see you. What a beautiful line. Wow. Can you tell me a little bit about it? Now, what's your longest inseam? Oh, it's really long. It's 32 inches. Okay, great. Thanks. Have a great day.
See you later.
Yeah. And, it didn't take me long till the conversation went, excuse me, how long are your longest pants?
Right.
No. And, the one time that was like blew my mind was I approached someone and I was like, oh, okay, well, what's the longest inseam that you carry? And she's like, what's an inseam?
Yeah.
So that's an indication of, the uniqueness of the challenges, and a rep that clearly was not very good at her job.
Let's fast forward. I mean, your business is growing, so you're finding those lines.
Totally.
So you're finding ways to deal with these obstacles
True enough.
that present themselves. I mean, think about, we talked about a little touch on little petite and plus, and even in traditional women's wear or contemporary women's wear, I mean, they have those challenges every day. What's your message for them? How do you tell them to keep charging forward?
Be different.
Be different.
Just keep looking. The lines are, not to brag, I assure you that I have chosen one of the, if not the most challenging demographic to find clothing that fits.
Right.
There is one clothing line in North America designed for tall women.
Right.
Let me repeat that. There is one clothing line on the continent designed for tall women.
No kidding.
That's it.
Yeah.
Right now, today.
Right.
So tell me where the opportunity lies, right? But yeah, just they're out there.
So do you believe then that you have a higher customer return rate because of that?
Yeah, I do. The loyalty is exceptional. It's
you're in a unique position where you work with other retailers in your other life. We put on a different hat, and you go out and you work with other retailers and help them and coach them, guide them. And you see their metrics and you understand how they're doing. How does that compare to where you are? Do you find that, you have such a captive audience that you maintain a higher return customer rate?
I think for us it is, and I think this goes for any retailer who is doing it right, who is making sales based on relationships. That is key. It doesn't matter what your target audience is. If you're developing that authentic relationship with your customer, that's what matters. And so for us, we're incredibly real, hilariously real. We've been told a number of times with all of the Facebook videos and stuff that we do. But that's what you see is what you get.
Right.
And we genuinely care about our customer. I have been that 6-foot-tall 14-year-old in a fitting room wondering, what the heck's wrong with me? Why doesn't anything fit?
Right.
Right? And so what brings me the most joy is seeing a tall woman come into Hye Fashion with, her shoulders down and her head down, and she's shy and whatever else of any age. This happens all the time. And don't worry, we've got this. Putting her in the fitting room with a couple of pair of jeans, and she comes out a completely different person. Right. Smile on her face, shoulders back, because she's like, they fit. And I'm like, yeah, they do. Let's get you some more that fit. And that's the best thing, just to make people feel amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. And so, let's talk about that authentic relationship. Has that led you to expand? Do you do business online?
No.
No. How come?
Well, it's interesting. There's a few reasons. We did try it a number of years ago. Now, this is a way long time ago, right? This is like 6 or 8 years ago. So the online world has changed quite a bit. But at that point, our point of sale system did not integrate. It didn't talk to our shopping cart software, which, as you know, is a massive challenge, because what would happen is I'd be at home on the weekend and I get an email saying, oh, ding, you got a sale on your e-commerce site. And instead of my reaction being like, yes, like this is passive income, quote unquote, I was like, oh crap, I hope I have this inventory.
Hope I have the inventory.
Yeah. And so I would find myself driving to the store after hours to, get this set up. Now, at that point, that was one of the biggest challenges. I find for my customer, returns are a challenge as well.
Sure.
It's such a tricky customer to fit.
Right.
And I'm not saying never with e-commerce. Right now, I don't have the resources from the manpower standpoint.
Sure.
That's the biggest challenge for us.
I mean, do you think that there's missed opportunity? Now, I'm not advocating to be online. I think you know me well enough to know that that's not really my shtick.
Sure.
I'm not an online guy, and I'd fight to the death that you don't need to be an e-commerce store
and I'd
to
be
find
standing
success.
beside you cheering, Dan.
You don't need to do that. But there is so much conversation out there about being online, and we've seen good things happen with buy online, pick up in store, and how we get her back into the store. But that is truly about the relationship. That's about that authentic connection that you're talking about. We don't need to be online to do that.
You can't make that kind of a connection online. Now, are you asking, is there missed opportunity, or is there potential opportunity for me as an e-commerce, store at some point? Yeah, I do think that there is.
Sure.
Yeah, at some point. I'm not saying never.
But I think, I guess I would argue that you're dealing with a little bit different challenge than some, or maybe a heightened, no pun intended,
I like
challenge.
That. Good one.
The traditional contemporary women's clothing store, they're not as down on their look and feel as when you can't find something that fits.
Oh man.
It's not any different than a guy with a size 16 boot walking into a Nike store and going, okay, well.
The only question they have is, what do you have that fits me?
Right.
It's not, I'm looking for this particular contemporary style and it needs to fit me. No, it's literally what fits. My customer is a very unique customer. This is the story. This is what I always tell my team about. Here's the tall customer. She comes into the store and she's mad. She's already mad because shopping is not fun for her.
Right.
It has never been a pleasurable experience in her entire life because she's used to nothing ever fitting. So she comes in and she's already got an attitude like this is never going to work.
Right.
Then what I always coach my team is connect with her as quickly as possible. Let her know that you understand her challenges. Make a joke about, just like you said, frostbitten wrists, or having to let down your hems in high school, or always pulling your pants way down so they seemed long enough, or the challenges you had getting in trouble with your skirt being too short, and the list goes
on and on and on.
Yeah. So as quickly as possible, prove to her that you understand who she is, right, and what her needs are, and it's like, I've been there. And the sooner you can get that connection, the better.
Right.
And then you can introduce to her, hey, once you've established that relationship, hey, listen, we have some things that can help you to cover your frostbitten wrists and your ankles and whatever else. And once you get her into a fitting room, I tell my team, we have one chance. She comes in there, we have one chance to prove to her that we can help her self-esteem, that we can help her confidence, that this isn't an average, run-of-the-mill store that you're going to find everywhere. We have one chance to, because many times it's like, okay, absolutely, we're looking for denim today. What's our approximate size? Oh, I have no idea.
Right.
Okay, well then we guess, and I'm like, you better guess right, because we're within a size.
You've got a chance,
because you have one chance for her to feel good, and outside of that, like I said, nothing is better than that customer coming out of the fitting room and saying, holy smokes, these fit.
Right.
It's like a different person. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Okay, do me a favor. Disconnect your hat from Hye Fashion.
Oh boy. Yep.
Do you not think that more than the majority of customers walk into every store with some level of frustration from their previous experience in stores. I mean, if you look around us today, you know, our business is riddled with mediocrity.
Yes.
You know, we see it with every store closing, and it's not every independent store that's closing. It's the big box stores that are closing.
Yep.
You know, and we're seeing a migration away from, you know, those traditional department stores, especially in the last few years. I mean, isn't that because customers are pissed off?
In some way disappointed? Yeah, you know, you make a great point, Dan. And I think that for the average, you know, box store or retailer of any size that's closing, I think that it's not so much and I know my high fashion hat is off, for high fashion, it's the challenge for us isn't establishing that relationship and the connection with the customer. It is finding goods that fit her.
Right.
So I do definitely agree.
But so don't you work just as hard to make sure that you have that connection with her first?
Totally.
And then?
Yes, and you absolutely
solve the
do.
puzzle?
And I think that's what's missing with these big retailers or whoever is closing,
Right.
is they're not making those connections.
I mean,
with
I
their
would
customer.
argue that it's not just the big retailers. I can go and pick 10 retailers here in our city that don't know how to put the puzzle together.
They're not doing it right.
Right.
Yeah. And that, I think, is more so the reason that people are disappointed.
Okay.
You know, when they come into a store and they're like, oh, well, no one even said hi to me.
It's their experience it's the previous, it's their history that's weighing them down.
Yep.
So what do we need to tell retailers? How do they need to change? What should they focus on?
In order
first?
Yeah. For me, I'm a firm believer in relationships. Like I said, everything that I do is because I just want to make people happy.
Right.
You know, and make them feel good about themselves. Having a conversation with someone, well, for me and you, it's a pretty easy thing to do.
Right.
You know, and just saying hi to someone and having a tiny chat with them about the weather or whatever, it's not that hard. You know, and it's pretty straightforward. Like, find something that affects all of us. Oh man, the Oilers.
Right.
Man, they're great. Or oh man, the Oilers are terrible.
Yeah, they were.
You know,
Yesterday
depending on whether
so
it's
great.
Tuesday or Wednesday.
Exactly.
You know, you know, but find something some common ground and just chat with them a little bit. And I'm not saying get into a 20-minute conversation with them. No. 30 seconds, that's all you need to establish that, hey, you're a human, I'm a human, we're people. Oh, okay, by the way, now that we're both humans and we're cool with that, let's find you some tops.
So do you have, okay, put your high fashion hat back on. I'm going to ask you to take it off, put it on.
Okay, no problem.
Do you have a system that you follow in your store for that? Like, do you have a process? We've
done a couple of, it's interesting because I've written a few, you know, sort of sales, I don't want to say manuals, handbooks, tips, that kind of thing. And then I realized that those were already out there. So you can just buy them, which is a far better use of your time. So we've actually used, am I allowed to specifically say which ones?
Absolutely, for sure.
So we've used the the Whiz Bang
Retail Sales Academy. Bob Negan, we'll give him a little plug. He's got a fabulous retail training.
Who else does? Another Bob Phibbs, the retail doctor. I love him. Yeah. Shout out to both Bobs.
For sure.
Yeah. But they've both got really great ways of doing things. And I actually really appreciate both of their points of view, because Bob Nagan's point of view overall is very much, you know, loving the customer. And so is Bob Phibbs, but I so appreciate his black and white nature. I sometimes just need that, you know, because he does, you know, Facebook Live every week, and people, retailers, write in with questions, and I hope I never forget this. It was so funny. He's reading the question, and so from this place asks, I have this team member who's doing this and that and blah, 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 blah. What should I do? And he's like, these are the rules. If you're not going to follow them, get a new job. Next question. And I just love it.
Well, and that sometimes is the way it has to be.
Yeah.
You know, I think that part of our success in retail is that there is only one way to do this. There's only one way to connect with your customer. And if you're not prepared, you know, to put yourself out there for her, you can't work here.
Yeah.
You know, you have to do this.
Totally.
So you do have a bit of a system then in your store that allows that natural progression.
Totally. Yeah, and it's interesting, Dan, because you say natural progression. It's interesting how, for myself, when I was writing the quote-unquote manual, it was really hard to do.
Right.
Because I'm like, how do I describe what I innately do?
Right.
And some people, you know, on my team, it's like they don't even think about it. They're just naturally going through the 6 steps to the perfect purchase or
Sure.
whatever the case is, right? And then
Yeah.
the next person has to think of it more of a methodical process.
Yeah.
So it's quite
I mean, I
interesting.
think some of the greatest trainers out there, and even, you know, Bob himself, as he's creating this module, he recognizes that he had to break it down into smaller
Absolutely.
chunks for people to take it
Absolutely.
on. But the reality is, it's a natural progression.
Yeah.
If you can start a conversation with
Totally.
someone, you can continue
Yes.
down that path to help
Yep.
them, in his case, the perfect purchase, in mine, a total solution. I mean, we all have our own
Totally.
way of saying the exact same thing, you know, and it is still about her.
And from my standpoint, one of my favorite things about having invested, and it truly
Invested.
is investment.
Good word.
Yeah. Invested in the retail sales training from an outside source that's not myself, is it gave me some street cred.
Right.
Right? It was great because I was actually, you know, when I went through the training myself, I was realizing, oh my gosh, this is so wonderful that he's saying the same thing that I always say.
Right.
So that actually gives me, you know, some credibility on my team because it's
Right.
like, oh, Janelle actually always says, don't ever ask,
Yeah.
hi, how are you today?
Right.
Hi, is there anything I can help you find?
Yeah.
Big pet peeve.
Yeah, right.
Huge.
Can I help you?
No.
No. Actually, you can't.
No.
Yeah. No, I get that. Okay, so then let's talk about, take your hat off again.
It's off.
Let's talk about, you know, an experience, a customer experience in another store that's made you change the way you do things at Hye Fashion today.
In another store.
Yeah, I mean, you're a shopper, you've been around. Tell me about an experience that you've realized somewhere else that's made you change the way you do things.
That's a tough one. Well, I'll tell you that I always look for inspiration from a merchandising standpoint from every store I go into.
Oh, that's a good, okay, so
Yeah.
so are there stores that you've seen or that you've found that you think, man, they really get it?
Oh God, yes.
They get it. They kind of, I wish my store was that big.
Oh, or beautiful. Like some people in their displays.
Yeah.
You know, it's just outstanding. There's a number of them. Yeah, that are just absolutely beautiful, and they do such a terrific job of presenting the merchandise.
It's funny, you know, restaurateurs, they get it.
Yeah.
They get that atmosphere is
Yes.
a big part
Atmosphere.
of it. You know, they can serve not great food. They
Right.
can serve mediocre
Yes.
food in a fabulous environment
And you go back.
keep you coming back.
Yeah.
You know, and then there are those
There's the opposite.
restaurants that do the exact opposite
Totally.
of that. Yeah.
And for
You
me,
know?
I still keep coming back because I
Right.
find it terribly entertaining
Yeah.
to be dining on the greatest sushi beside, you know, a wall display of shoe racks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Clearly
for sure.
purchased at IKEA.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
All right. What do you see? Give me a challenge that's in front of you today for you to overcome. What are you working at internally to
Terrific
overcome?
question. Which hat is on?
Yeah, any one.
Okay, from Hye Fashion hat. So what we touched on this earlier, that the brick and mortar competitors that we had, right? We had a large international chain that was, I don't actually know how many stores they had worldwide, to be honest with you, but last year, about a year ago, they closed all of their stores,
Right.
the brick and mortar stores, and went strictly online.
Yeah.
And there's, on all the tall blogs that I'm on and,
Yeah.
and Facebook groups and stuff, there is really an unfortunate amount of negativity about, you know, oh my gosh, like what do I do? I can't
Right.
try it on. And our women really, really need to try it on, you know, try things on. But one of the challenges for us is to capture that audience because I know I can help them and I so desperately want to help them to feel good.
Right.
You know, to find things that fit. Oh my gosh. But here's the thing, Dan, on what demographic profile that you've ever filled out, on what form did it ask you your height?
Right.
Never, I bet. So how do you target to the tall customer?
Right.
You know, like how do
Yeah,
you
there's
find
nowhere
her?
that I'm profiling
Yeah.
that. Like I'm not putting that in my Facebook page that
No.
I'm 5'7". And maybe
Yeah.
I need to ask
Are you
that.
5'7"?
No, I was just being
I
smart.
thought so. I thought you were taller than that.
Well, if you look at my hockey card, I'm 5'12",
Oh yeah, nice. That's what I always used to say.
185 pounds.
That's what I used to
Yeah,
say.
5'12".
When I got my driver's license, I was 5'12".
Yeah.
Because I was embarrassed of being tall at that point because I couldn't find
Right.
anything to fit me.
All right, give some advice. Put your authentic coaching. Okay, before we do that, tell me about the authentic coaching group.
Yeah, okay.
So tell me why that came about.
Yeah, great question. Well, in 2012, I made one of the worst, followed by one of the best decisions in my business. I bought out the stock of another brick and mortar retailer for tall women that had closed. Now, Dan, in your experience, what kind of inventory is left over after a store closes? He's just shaking his head.
Yeah, it's the best of
always.
It's the best of the worst.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, really. So that was one of the many lessons that I learned that I take with me moving forward. But yeah, so I bought out the inventory, and some of it was great, but after the great was gone, there was not a lot of good left. So what happened is my cash was tied up in very long pants, a great deal of very long pants.
Right.
And I couldn't pay for the fresh goods that were on order for the next season. And I happened to be on a phone call. Can I give an actual plug here?
Well, not to me, but yeah, of course you can. Go ahead. Sure.
So I was on the phone with Canadian Retail Solutions because they are my point of sale provider. And so they were probably changing a message on the bottom of the receipt or something. And as making small talk, one of the techs said, "Oh, so how are things?" "They're terrible." As every retailer would, right? "Oh, the world is falling over." Anyway, and she happened to say, "Well, did you hear about this new merchandise planning thing that CRS is offering?" I said, "No." And she said, "Well, do you want me to get them to reach out to you?" So to be polite, I was like, "Fine, sure, whatever." Right. And because of the, again, relationship that had been established of authenticity and integrity between CRS and myself,
right.
Scott reached out to me and said, "Hey, mate," but a little bit
good Aussie friend, yep.
Right.
"Hey, mate."
Yeah, he said, "Hey, I hear you're interested in this," and I said, "Yeah, whatever. Do what you need to do." And he said, "Well, I need to take your financials and your point of sale." I'm like, "Well, financials I do twice a year, so that's going to be a challenge."
Right.
Man, times have changed there. But anyway, I told them, pull whatever reports you need from the POS system, and then he visited my store the next week and presented to me what merchandise planning could do for my business. And he told me all of this and gave me this presentation, and it was all well and good. And then I was like, "Yeah, but how much does this cost?"
Of course.
And he said, no, that's already in there.
Right.
And I signed that day.
Yeah.
And I've never looked back. Yeah. And I firmly attest that merchandise planning has saved my business. It is the bread and butter of what I do. Every morning I get up and I look at the plans. And I determine, okay, where are we going to be focusing our marketing? Right. What are we going to post on Facebook today? What kind of promos are we going to run this weekend? What classification of inventory do I need to order more of? What needs to go on sale? Right. Absolutely every decision we make revolves around the merchandise plan.
Around your merchandise.
That's right.
Good for you.
And so it has been such an integral part of my business, and it has helped me to overcome so many challenges, one of which was moving from a small terrible location on the south side of Edmonton to a fantastic location on the west side, which we love.
Right.
And it's really, it has, I don't want to say saved my business, but it has, it is, like I said, it is the sun that our earth revolves around. So it has been such an important thing to me in my business, and it has helped me so much that, again, going back to my why is you just want to help people. Right. I understand how lonely it can be, how challenging it can be, how you don't want to tell anyone about, except of course the CRS tech, right on the phone, about how challenging, right? About how challenging things can be in retail. Like I didn't even want to tell my family, about this mess that I had gotten into. But I get it. I'm on the front lines with you, other retailers. I understand the challenges. I've been there. I'm continuing to be there. And so I wanted to help other people. And so the opportunity came to partner with Management One as a merchandise planning coach and, to work with yourself. Sure. Right? So I ended up becoming certified and have helped.
We are certifiable if we're in retail. We're definitely certifiable.
It's true. But yeah, with Management One, working as a merchandise planning coach and helping other retailers. And it's been an incredible journey. It's my favorite things have been, just those little texts or emails from clients where it's like, we had our first, $10,000 weekend, or oh my gosh, I've emptied the basement of inventory was another one once, or the big one right before a fall trade show was, I paid off my credit card for the first time in 2 years. That was awesome. And so being able to partner with people and have this incredible positive impact on their businesses and their lives is like, what's better than that?
There's nothing better than that.
There's nothing better than that.
There's nothing better.
Especially because I get it,
right?
It's like, oh my goodness, I have been there, and it's like, hooray, I get to help these people, so it's wonderful. So that's
You're getting emotional when you talk about it.
Very emotional. It's true. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, well, I care.
Yeah, well, that's, Janel, I think it's one of the things that's most admirable about a coach is how much they care.
Right.
Toss me, though, that Kleenex box.
Don't put this part on film. Thank you. You know, and it's like, if you don't have the passion, what do you have?
Right. For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, I think that we do this from a place of passion. We start every business not from a place of education, but a place of passion.
Oh, God, I did not start from a place of education in any way.
And our path continues. We're not in retail to get rich.
No.
Literally, we're not in retail to get rich.
No.
We're not in coaching and consulting to get rich.
No.
It's something else that drives us.
Totally.
It is more about your why and your how.
Yeah.
That does drive us.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
Good for you.
Thanks.
All right. So your why is really that being able to help.
Totally.
And I think I talked about this before. It's kind of been this buzzy word. Everybody wants to know your why, and if you don't know, if you've never seen that podcast with Simon Sinek, the why. I mean, he is so good at defining the why that for me it was like a light bulb.
Yeah.
As soon as I wrote down why I was doing something, everything else became easy.
That's right.
Easy is not the right word. Everything else became
straightforward.
Yeah, it became a path to where I was headed.
Yeah.
And those bumps in the road are part of that journey.
Totally.
And as we work with more and more and more retailers, certainly like Hye Fashion and authentic coaching, you're going to go and work with all of these retailers. It's that path forward that the retailer needs from you.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So fast forward 3 years.
Yeah.
Fast forward 3 years. Tell me what Authentic Coaching Group looks like.
Still helping retailers.
Helping retailers.
Still helping retailers, man. That's what it's all about.
What do you think is the greatest attribute you bring to a retailer?
I think real world experience.
Experience.
Totally. I have so much that I can relate to, right? From, when they're having those tough times, it's like, oh man, this is going on, to, hey, let's, they're having a challenge with their staff, or vendor relations. That's another one that I love. Well, because sometimes I actually know the vendors personally.
Sure.
Like, this is what I've, experienced with them. But yeah, just the real world experience. Like I said, being in the trenches with the retailers. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I could lean on that. Me, it's more about truth. Mm-hmm. I bring truth.
Yeah, you do.
I'm not afraid to tell you the truth.
No, you're not. And that's the thing as coaches, is we don't tell you what you want to hear.
Right.
We tell you what you need to hear.
What you need to hear.
And the challenge is the delivery of that.
Right.
Is as a coach, when you're having those, when the retailer's having those times that they're like, really down on it, is being able to give them that, either kick in the butt or that motivation to keep moving forward and to see things differently, and like I said, to proceed.
Yeah.
You had talked about we look forward, not back. There's a reason that the windshield is bigger than the rearview mirror.
Oh.
Good one.
Holy cow.
Good one, hey?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's because it's like, just go forward, right? Yeah, we take a little glimpse every now and then, but the majority of our efforts need to be focused onward.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Good for you.
I read that somewhere, Dan.
Well, that's okay. Use
credit.
it all. You know what? Our world is built on plagiarism. It's quite all right.
There you go. Well,
it's quite all right.
Thank you. And I'm not even sure. I can't even give credit to the person to where I read it.
Yeah.
Shout out to Facebook.
I read it somewhere.
Safe that it was Facebook.
In my house, it's I heard.
Yeah.
I heard this.
Yeah.
I'm like, where did we hear this?
Yeah.
It was on Facebook. Oh, okay. So
you read it somewhere.
Yeah. All right. Take an opportunity to give yourself a plug, both for Hye Fashion, where we can find you online and in store, or your web, not necessarily online.
Yeah.
And then Authentic Coaching, please.
Thank you. Okay, so Hye Fashion, we are located, our brick and mortar store is 17034 90th Avenue Northwest in Edmonton. So we're right near West Edmonton Mall, but we're not in West Edmonton Mall. We're on 170th Street and 90th Avenue. And at online at hyefashion.ca, and it's hyefashion.ca.
Hye Fashion.
I know. I always have have to be
different
different.
kind of high.
It is. It's a different kind. I always have to be different. And Facebook at Hye Fashion, and then at Hye Fashion Store on Instagram.
Do yourself a favor and check out Janelle's Facebook videos. They are fabulous.
They're
fabulous.
They are so unplanned. That's it. It's because they're so real.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. And then Authentic Coaching Group.
Yeah, you betcha. You can always get me, Janel, at authenticconsultinggroup.ca.
Nice.
That's it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
This is Dan with The Wealthy Retailer and my guest, Janel Dickin from Hye Fashion and the Authentic Coaching Group. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.